What's up, everyone, and welcome into your 365 Sports Big 12 newsletter, Oklahoma State edition. I'm your host, Alyssa Brandon, taking you through all things Oklahoma State sports. Now, if you want to continue to get that 365 newsletter, you can go to 365sports.video to sign up for that, and it will hit your inbox every Wednesday afternoon so you can stay up to date on all that. So once again, go to 365sports.video to get on that. But let's get right into it, talking Oklahoma State. Obviously, Oklahoma State played another football game this weekend, another loss, very obvious outcome there. They fall to 1-9, and I want to get into the football game, but I want to start this with a little piece of information we've learned in the Oklahoma State coaching search. Now, it's not all verified. I have some people that I want to reach out to and kind of talk to about this, but just to let you know on what's happening right now. So it was reported that on a podcast October 24th by Carson Cunningham, who does the Pistols Firing. He works with Firing, does their podcast and such. Carson Cunningham reported that Alex Golesh, USF head coach currently, who's a name that's really atop a lot of people's list, with just really doing great things at their program. He reported that Golesh had interviewed with Oklahoma State. So that was the report. That was what was out there. No other major sites had really confirmed that. He then reports on Monday that Alex Golesh is atop the list for Oklahoma State head coaching candidates. Now, this also comes after the president of Oklahoma State, Jim Hess, this past week says that Oklahoma State is, in short form, is narrowing in on its targets for the role, and that they will have their decision before Santa Claus comes to town. That was his exact words, kind of a joke there with Christmas. But so then on November 17th, Carson Cunningham tweets that Golesh is atop the list and that him and Eric Morris are considered the top two. Now, there's been kind of like a top five floated out there with including Colin Klein, Kane Womack, Zach Robinson. Now, Zach Robinson has kind of shifted from the center of the conversation. It's been said around Stillwater that they're not looking to get involved with the NFL timeline that they would have to cooperate with in order to get Zach Robinson. But aside from the point, news here is that top two, supposedly from Pistols Firing Carson Cunningham, is Alex Golesh, Eric Morris. Well, there was a little bit of a spin to that story this morning as Alex Golesh was actually asked by a student journalist at the University of South Florida in their weekly press conference. He was asked, hey, your name's been floated around in these circles. It's been said that you've maybe interviewed for this role at Oklahoma State. Have you interviewed? And his response was a simple three-word at first, I have not. That's what Alex Golesh said. He said, I have not. The full quote was, I'm so focused and locked in on this program and this team. We got so much work to do, but I have not. So he repeated that kind of sentiment that he has not. Now, this could be looked at one way and another. It could be we take Alex Golesh at his word, saying that he has not, or we look at kind of just this coaching carousel and how coaches have to deal with these matters when asked up front. And it could be said that, okay, maybe is Alex Golesh telling the truth? Is he being fully transparent? Is he alluding to the fact that maybe he personally has not, but has his team, has his agents? Have they talked to Turnkey ZRG, who is the search firm that Oklahoma State has hired for this process? So him saying, I have not, is that the cop-out to my team has, my agents have, but I have not spoken directly with Chad Weiberg, the Oklahoma State administration? And maybe he has altogether, and maybe this is not truthful at all. But again, I'm not going to sit here and say I know the truth right now. All I know is that Carson Cunningham had reported that Alex Golesh had interviewed. And the wording there also was that Alex Golesh himself had interviewed. Now, that wasn't clarified, but that was the initial wording. Then to say, so Carson Cunningham has revealed that. Then coming out now on Tuesday, Alex Golesh completely denies it in front of the media. So at this point, We are unsure of where Golish sits, but with kind of 2 weeks winding down in this coaching search, it will be revealed soon, and I'm sure there will be information that comes out after the fact as to when they had that conversation. But just another name to note there, obviously, along with Cunningham's report about the top two, was Eric Morris, which is a name that we've already seen is at the top of the list, doing great things at North Texas, 9-1. North Texas is now actually ranked 22 in the AP poll. Now that's the AP poll, not the college football playoff rankings. For the first time since 1959, they're in that poll. So obviously, Eric Morris doing historical things with the UNT program. Both the running back and the quarterback putting up great numbers week by week by week. And for Oklahoma State fans, it's the sense that I have that they are yearning for an offensive mind, and that's something that was obviously done with Mike Gundy. That's what they looked for in him for 20 years. So that's what I wanted to start this off with. Just a little bit of confusion there, but apparently the names to know are Alex Golish, Eric Morris, and I would keep an eye out on what Alex Golish continues to say throughout this process. Now, let's get to the game. It was a 14-6 loss for Oklahoma State, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. This time was the closest Oklahoma State looked to getting a win in all of its conference games. They had just horrible turnovers, 5 turnovers throughout the entire contest, and 3 of those in critical red zone moments, 2 of those by quarterback Zane Flores. One of them was kind of, I guess you could say, an excusable one where Trent Hallen actually threw a pass and was intercepted, obviously. He was hit as he threw. A lot of those 3 turnovers I would point to and say that the protection is lacking. Not to say that this isn't on Zane Flores, but when he was hit like that, it was completely on his blind side where he wasn't looking, and the ball was jostled free from his hand. The other one, he was hit, and the ball didn't go in the direct motion that it was intended to because he was hit. So a lack of just protection there on the offensive line, but you can't do that. You continue to shoot yourself in the foot over and over. This is the most they've shot themselves in the foot in a game I've seen thus far. 5 turnovers, and Kansas State, a team that's really good at forcing those turnovers, but you just can't have those if you want to win a game. Only bright spot I would really get from this game, and if you are anyone watching that broadcast and you were watching in the stands, you saw number 8 Parker Robertson flying over across the field the entire game. That man was popping people all over the place. Let me pull up his stats here. So 8 total tackles, doesn't really jump off the page, but 1 sack where they kind of bring him off a corner blitz, 1 interception. He jumps in front of the guy, kind of cuts his route off. Then 1 tackle for loss, and then 2 pass breakups. So this is a safety that's doing everything possible you can on the defensive side of the ball. And I kid you not, it was literally every time. You see a Kansas State player go down, you see a Kansas State player dropped in the backfield, it was Parker Robertson. The PA announcer, I'm sure, was getting annoyed of just saying his name over and over. And this guy's a walk-on. He's been with the program for 5 years, and that's part of what Doug Meacham alluded to, kind of talking about it in his press conference. That's why he's so hungry, is because he came from the bottom of the barrel here. And he talked about it after, he's simply playing because this could be his last stretch of football in his entire career. And that's what's lighting the fire underneath him. And on the defensive side of the ball, it's spreading throughout the whole defense. Clint Bowen has talked about the tackling has improved. It's getting better. To hold Kansas State to 14 points in this game, I would say, is a huge accomplishment. That's the least they've scored throughout the entire year. Not even Texas Tech could hold them to 14 points. They scored 20 versus Tech. So really good productive performance from the defense. But if you just can't keep up on offense, if you can't secure the ball, you're not going to win a Big 12 football game. And they didn't. Moving on from football, though, football will have 2 more games, and we'll continue to look forward to that coaching announcement as the brightest shining spot of the rest of the season. But Cowboy basketball is 4-0. They got, since we last spoke, they got another win over Texas A&M Corpus Christi. I was actually at that game, got to take a couple flicks. It was really cool. But it was an 85-69 win for the Cowboys, and a really cool game for Steve Lutz, the head coach, facing off against the former team that he actually coached for in Corpus Christi. He did a great job of revamping their program there and bringing them to 20-win seasons. And it was not pretty offensively in the first half. Something that the Cowboys have really adjusted to this year and improved is their shooting, as the 2 and 3 past years programs have really struggled to shoot the 3-point ball. They struggled to do that in the first half. I believe it was 1 of 12 from 3-point range in the first half. They ended with 5 made 3-pointers, so kind of made up for it in the second. And that was kind of the story of the game, is that they let the Islanders pull really close in the first half, and then in the second just kind of ran away with it. Anthony Roy is a name to know here. If you haven't heard of him, if you didn't hear of him from the Auburn exhibition game where he dropped, I believe, 28 points in his debut for the Cowboys, this was his official debut, and he led the Cowboys with 15 points and made an immediate impact as soon as he stepped on the court. Now, funny little piece of news here is that the Cowboys' next matchup is actually against you-know-who? USF, the coach that Alex Golesh belongs to. Now, obviously, that's with the football program, but just kind of an interesting fact there. So, the Cowboys will play USF at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, so that will be their next test, and probably one of their tougher tests of the year so far besides that A&M game. So we'll see if they can improve that defense and kind of improve that three-point shooting ability. Last sport I want to hit on here, cowgirl basketball. Cowgirl basketball has climbed from 22 to 20 to 18 in the AP poll. They were just ranked that this week. They're the 4th highest in the Big 12. If you haven't seen it, also nationally, cowgirl basketball is shooting just the doors down. You walk into GIA and you expect to see 15 three-pointers fall a game. I mean, maybe not that much, but they have 72 three-pointers, which is the most for a D1 team in its first 5 games since 1999-2000 season. So just a historic performance from three-point range, really. And J.C. Hoyt talked about that all throughout a press conference, that was kind of the identity that they adapted, and they will continue to adapt. A lot of that thanks to freshman Lena Girardi. Some more stats here. They're ranked 2nd nationally in scoring with 105.6 points per game. Now, I know what you're going to say. They've played lackluster opponents, but J.C. Hoyt spoke to it too. Shooting is shooting. It doesn't matter the opponent you're facing. If you can drain that many shots per game, put up that many points, it doesn't matter who you're playing. They're obviously a great scoring team. And then 6th in scoring margin nationally, scoring more than 53.8 points per game, more than their opponent. So just kind of killing their opponent on the other end every time. And they're getting respect for it nationally. So good for them. They had the week off. They had that really tough stretch where they had like 5 games in 9 days, which was pretty brutal for them. So they got the week off there. They will now travel to New York. And J.C. Hoyt said they're going to have a few fun activities to get to in New York. Obviously a cool place to visit. But they'll play St. John's, who's 3-1, 2-0 at home. So the stiffest competition they will face thus far, and their first road game. So this will be the first probably test to see where the Cowgirls are at with kind of a comparable program. But 18 in the nation, so watch out for Cowgirl basketball. They'll actually play in the Cayman Islands over Thanksgiving, and they'll face some pretty good opponents there. So watch out for them. That is all I have for Oklahoma State sports. Again, just really want to keep you updated on that coaching search, and we will continue to talk about it for the football program, but watch out for basketball. That's all I have this week on the 365 Sports newsletter, the Oklahoma State edition. Stay tuned for continued coverage from this every week, and type in that 365sports.video and go sign up to receive that newsletter in your inbox. I'm Alyssa, and I will see you next week.